The Premier League is often given the title of best league in the world, usually by English people. But the competitive nature of the Premier League is undeniable. Any team can beat any other team on any given day. Brighton getting beaten by Everton when they were going down. Southampton drawing with Liverpool even though they'd already been relegated. And Brentford beating both Manchester clubs. But soon, that may change. One club will come through the mire and stand victorious over them all. And it's not Manchester City. Sure, Manchester City have shown that the right club with the right financial backing and the right management can dominate a competitive league. But they won't be doing it for much longer. Their competitive advantage is falling away. And the next club to win the Premier League after Manchester City is Newcastle United. They are going to destroy all the other clubs in the Premier League in a number of different ways. It might sound a bit obvious, richest club in the world and all that, but hasn't Everton's relegation fight proven that even if you spend the money, you're not guaranteed to do well? Chelsea with Todd Bowley, 600 million, whatever. Hasn't that proven that it's not all about money? Newcastle's monumental rise over the last 2 seasons with very little money invested given the grand scheme of what they're worth will be leaving football directors and CEOs everywhere quaking in their boots. Not football boots, half of them don't like football. Richard Arnold's a bloody rugby player. Newcastle have gone from scraping survival in a relegation fight to the Champions League in 2 seasons. Manchester City didn't do that when they got took over. It took them 4 seasons to get in the Champions League. They actually finished lower the season after they got taken over than they did the previous season. They went from 9th to 10th. Newcastle's meteoric rise in the Premier League is indicative of what they are going to do in the Premier League in the future. And this is how they're going to do it. Up until now, they've been quite careful with how they spent their riches. They've made investments in the training ground and all the facilities to make sure the players are comfortable. That goes a long way. It's a lot easier to do your work in a comfy chair than sitting on a bed of nails. And they're learning from the whole Manchester City thing with FFP. Understanding that it's not considered a good thing to, cheat. They've made really smart decisions with the players that they've brought in. Trippier, bringing class and leadership for only 12 million. Botman, defensive brilliance for only 35 million. Bruno Guimaraes. Bruno G, absolute magic, 40 million. And then Isak, future superstar striker. Yeah, a bit on the expensive side, 58 million. The price tags have slowly gotten bigger and bigger, but they've been really careful in who they're getting. They know exactly what they need and what they want, and they focus specifically on those players. For the richest club in the world, they underspent Manchester United, Manchester City, Chelsea, obviously, and even Nottingham Forest. Although Nottingham Forest did have to, buy a whole team. This summer, I fully expect them to come in with a transfer plan that changes the shape of transfers as we know it. Before now, they were having to try their hardest to attract players. They didn't have Champions League. It was a struggle. But now they've got that Champions League. And they've got a pretty purse too. Directors of football know what they want and need. The manager knows what he wants and needs. And by Jove, are they going to go and get it? Who the fuck is Jove? And the second part of this coin, the second reason they're going to go on and dominate, is the management. Newcastle could have gone and attracted a Conte. Or recalled Benitez. Or fuck it, even Ancelotti was at Everton. They would have had a shot there. But again, they made the decision to find someone with a history of overachieving and squad building. Eddie Howe. And he has risen to the occasion. He's pretty good. Many believed he'd be a short-term fix for Newcastle. Bring them closer to Europe and then get somebody else in to finish the job. Much like Manchester City did with Mark Hughes and Mancini, everybody expected them to follow the same route, the same blueprints for Manchester City, because why wouldn't you? But Eddie Howe is proving himself to be one of the most capable managers in the league. Sure, he'll have his critics, you've got the whole time-wasting argument, like nobody else does that. But most importantly, he is coaching his players to levels that nobody expected they were capable of. Joelinton went from one of the worst number 9s this league has ever seen to an extremely solid midfielder who's just been called up by Brazil. He's turned Joelinton into a Brazilian national team midfielder. Brazil, not Estonia, not Luxembourg, Brazil. Oh, not to mention the fact that Sean Longstaff is now a Champions League midfielder. No offence, Sean, but that's not down to you. That's down to Eddie Howe. And not only is he able to work miracles, Joelinton, Longstaff, Almiron, but he's able to build stability. So working in conjunction with a practically limitless budget, it's hard not to see Howe in it for a long run. The better they do, the more players will want to join, and they're overachieving already. And the wages they offer aren't going to do much harm, are they? And down the line, when Eddie Howe has had his time, there'll be streams of top-level managers knocking at the door of St James's Park wanting to get an easy Premier League trophy or two on their CVs. And Manchester City won't be able to compete. They've not got as much money as Newcastle do. They had to cheat in order to get as much money as they did. And Newcastle won't have to do that because they have extremely loyal fans that will buy their products. And you know what happens with a winning club that has history? Foreign fans. Manchester City struggle to get fans in their own city. Newcastle, at some point soon, will leave City and all other competitors in the dust. Unless, number one, other clubs in the Premier League get bought out by similarly rich people and the Premier League becomes a game of the richest in the world just using their fun little Sims characters in Premier League teams to fight against each other. That's actually probably pretty accurate. Number two, a former giant gets bought out by one of these big spenders, and then all of a sudden all amazing players will flood to them instead. Because who wants to live in Newcastle over Manchester or Liverpool? Or Cheshire, that's where they all live really. Or finally, number three, thing that is probably most likely to happen, FFP goes mental. FFP being financial fair play. They're the ones really that are supposed to guard the Premier League and every other league from big bullies like Newcastle, City, PSG, from just spending millions and making a monopoly of football. They've not done an amazing job so far, but with these Manchester City charges, they're taking an extra step, and it could mean that soon these clubs are really limited in what they're able to do. But if those things don't happen, congratulations, Magpies, you've won the Premier League for the next 10 years. See you later.